Well, good evening everyone and welcome to Inside Line Racing. My name of course is Alex Lilia. A few days ago, if you tuned into the ILR1 stream, you would have heard my delightful tones over there as I was substituting for the regular ILR1 commentators, and we're back in the place where I belong, and that is ILR3. 2 seasons as a driver, first season as a commentator, and for the first time in ILR history we are at France at the beautiful Paul Ricard circuit in the Les Castellets region in the south of France. The first time that Formula 1 cars have traversed this circuit since 1990, as long as my history is correct, and in the best part of nearly 30 years this circuit has gone under quite a lot of track modifications. First and foremost, there's no grass or gravel anywhere. All of the runoff areas outside of those famous white lines is all abrasive tarmac sort of runoff area that's designed to sort of slow the cars and damage the tyres as well, so penalties for running wide are quite high here, as well as obviously with the strict corner cutting rules as well. Now the circuit, obviously, since it's been off the calendar, has been used as a testing ground for F1 cars, so they are familiar with this place. Obviously not the drivers on the game, but in real life F1 they certainly are. And of course they've had different things here as well, lower junior category formulas, Porsche Super Cups run here as well, I think various other sort of racing categories, mainly tin top sports cars, have been here over the years as well. So it is a circuit that is well used, but this is the first time when the ILR3 guys do battle around here. We had ILR5 and 6 just an hour and a half ago, and that threw up plenty of action as well. We've got 19 drivers at the possible 20 here tonight, although LMC Vettel has just managed to join the session, so we do have a full grid, although there are a few driver changes to talk about. First of all, in the Mercedes, the Joker's left the league and he's being replaced by a driver currently in third place called Harin. Yeah, I'm not going to pronounce the name of it, but call him Harin, Greek I believe by his flag. Looking down as well, we've got J. Cole in 7th place at the moment in qualifying. He's now in a Toro Rosso as a full-time driver. Larkin in 10th place is a reserve. He's covering for Liam Robbo tonight in the Toro Rosso, so a new driver pairing tonight then in the Toro Rosso. Further down the order as well, looks like the only driver we are missing, I believe, full-time driver is Dougie Antonio in the McLaren. So Lewis coming up in 4th place in the qualifying standings. Another reserve driver has jumped in as well. We do have a few qualifying bans out there for various drivers. McGee Showman in the, where is he? He's in the Force India, down in 17th place in the pit lane. He has a qualifying ban and his racecraft will be reviewed for the next 3 races. So he's been a naughty boy in the last few races and he's endured the wrath of several drivers, and he's now put on probation and is serving a qualifying ban tonight. LMC Vettel, who has got connection issues but has just managed to join, he's got 2 qualifying bans, and obviously not being taking part in qualifying tonight, joining late due to his connection, they will roll over into the next 2 races. And Liam Robbo, who's not here tonight, also has a qualifying ban, but as he's not here, that will also pass on to the next event as well. So we've got 9 minutes, just over 9 minutes left of this session. Most of the drivers have set a lap time. You can see there the tyre choices there. We've got the Ultra Soft, the Super Soft and the soft tyres. Of course, the purple Ultra Soft tyres are the quickest and provide the most grip early on, but they do wear out at a quicker rate. Then we've got the mid-range tyre, the Super Soft, the Red Wall tyres. We'll be expecting a lot of drivers on those during the race. They're a good all-round tyre, and you'll be expecting most of the drivers to be running those at some stage in the race. And then, of course, the most durable compound, the soft tyres. They don't provide the highest amount of grips or speed, but you can take them quite far into the race. So one-stop strategy should be king here tonight, but don't be surprised to see a few drivers, I should say, inside the top 10 having to go for 2-stop strategies if they somehow can't make their tyres last for them. So then, as it goes on then, Nigel currently on provisional pole, the only driver in the 1 minute 29s with a 29.792. Rinky Marie has also completed a couple of laps. He's up there in 2nd place in a 30.1. And our first reserve driver, Harin, in the 2nd Mercedes. Well, he's not a reserve driver, he's now a full-time driver. I do apologise, he's up in 3rd place. So our first reserve driver is Lewis in 4th place. Conzo in 5th for now. And Paul McGuinness will be quite happy with his performance so far, albeit on the super soft tyres. He's up in 6th place. A few drivers still yet to set lap times. So we'll scroll down then to Tough to Handle, who is still our championship leader. And talking of championship leaders, it's a good time to talk about the drivers and the constructors table then. So yeah, just Tough to Handle, just coming into what is now going to be the beginning of Sector 3, as the drivers table is taking its time to load up. Hopefully it will in a few seconds. So we'll jump on board with the Williams driver then, as he negotiates the last part of this lap. Sector 3 hasn't really been changed too much since the track has been taken off the calendar. Sector 1 certainly has, and Sector 2, which used to have the very famous Mistral Straight, which back in the late 80s and early 90s was fantastic to watch the cars go through there, because back then you had V8s, V10s and V12s, and of course all singing and dancing with their different engine tones, and it did sound absolutely fantastic between the trees in the south of France. It has now been butchered slightly with that left-right chicane in Sector 2, but still a very fast point of the circuit, as Tough to Handle does move up into second place then. So then, he does lead the championship, and he's currently on the front row with 105 points. Spaghetti Chips in the McLaren in second place on 76. Flexi, after his win last week at Canada, up in third place for Force India on 64. Tied with the second Williams driver of Konzo, whose early season performances are starting to slowly slip away, and Bugstert rounds out the top 5 for Ferrari with 52 points. Down at the bottom of the table, we've got Hammond and J. Cole, of course, making their first official start in ILR3. They're both on 0 points, as you can imagine. Joined, unfortunately, by the very unfortunate Haas driver of Paul McGuinness, who's been trying as hard as he might to score his first points of the season, but luck just hasn't been going his way. LMC Vettel, who has joined the session, is also down there on 1 point. Rinky Marie on 2 as well. McGee Showman on 4. All these drivers really do need to start scoring some consistent points if they don't want to be down at the bottom of the table at the end of the season. Of course, round 8 of 21, I believe it is. So we're coming into the midway point of the season now, and some of these guys have got to start really putting down some consistent race performances now if they're going to challenge to manage to beat their own personal goals, whatever they are, that they've set themselves as the season goes on. In the Constructors' Championship, Williams still comfortably lead that. Tough to Handle on Konzo on 169 points. 85 points ahead of Spaghetti Chips and Dougie Antonio's McLaren team on 84. And Flexi and McGee Showman for Force India on 72. The EFC Matthew in EVR Matt, the Matthew brothers, if you like, in for Renault. They're in 4th place on 64. And then the LMC guys of Bugster and Vettel for Ferrari in 5th place on 53. Down at the bottom, Paul McGuinness and Lukey Luke for Haas on 18 points. So just over 5 minutes left of the session. A few drivers still get to set a lap time, as you can see most of them now coming back into the pit lane. We'll have McGee Showman is obviously serving qualifying ban. Owen White's in the pit. Spaghetti Chips is as well. We've got Sauber coming out the pits. It is Owen White. So then Owen White now out onto the circuit. He's on the soft tyres. So it looks like quite a few drivers here have gone for the hardest compounds. Of course, when you do go online, you can either go for like the fastest or the balanced or the hardest set of tyres that you want to carry into qualifying the race. Looks like a lot of drivers have gone for the hardest set. They want to put their banker lap in. As you can see there, most of the drivers in the midfield have done their banker lap on the soft tyres. A few drivers have already gone out there on the super softs and the ultra softs as well to claim their stake for a nice grid position. You can see there all the top 7 at the moment currently in the pits. Paul McGuinness out there on the circuit now. He's now on the ultra soft tyres. As we'll bring up the lap data then to see what's going on. He is on a fast lap apparently. So we're in sector 1 at the moment. And this corner here very tricky. You just lift off the throttle just a little bit. We're back on the power, over to the right, flick it left, back onto the Mistral straight where the second of the 2 DRS zones here is. The first one down the main straight, the second one just here as well. Of course, both of them with their own independent zones, and you can expect most of the overtaking to be done into the chicane just here. And sometimes you do get a bit perplexed with which corner to take, because this circuit does have, I think, something crazy like 187 different variations. And well, we're going to be using the standard one for now. So down back down the second part of the Mistral straight, flip the car right, easy flat in qualifying and the race through here. Having a double right-hander here, it tightens up on the second apex. 5th gear for Paul McGuinness, drags the car left over to the right-hand side. Double left-hander here as well, tightens up on the second apex. And you want to stay away from that sausage curb on the entrance and exit as well. You can see it just elevated there just a little bit. You don't want to put the rear tyres on that. You will lose traction. And then into the final 2 corners in, another double left-hander that tightens up continuously through it. And then a very tight right-hander as well down the second gear, but up to 3rd and 4th very quickly to kill the traction. And Paul McGuinness deciding that he wasn't going to improve in his lap time and decided to come back into the pits. That was almost a full flying lap there of the Paul Ricard circuit. We've got 27 laps, I believe, coming into tonight. So we've got J. Cole out there on the circuit at the moment. There's a McLaren, I believe, just running off the circuit a little bit. Hopefully he'll stay out the way of the Toro Rosso. Indeed he does. So just 3 minutes left of the session. We're now getting down to the busy period of the qualifying, and you'd be expecting most of these cars to be out again for one flying lap towards the end of this session. Of course, McGee Showman serving qualifying ban. Spaghetti Chips now out there as well. He's just coming around to complete his outlap. Very wide entrance into the final corner to straighten up the car as best as he can. So we'll jump aboard with the McLaren driver then as he takes us for a hot lap around Paul Ricard. Over to the right hand side where you join the exit for the pit lane. Turn 1 is almost blind. You've really got to have a bit of faith. Chuck the car in. Turn 2 as well, very tricky as well, and he's immediately ran wide and picked up an invalidation. So Spaghetti Chips, that hot lap is pretty much done and done. Nigel is going for another one as well. Rinky Marie has just started, so we'll jump on with Rinky Marie then to pick up from where he picked off. And he's backed out as well. Well, what have I got to do round here to actually get a hot lap with some of these guys in qualifying? Of course, strict corner cutting rules is in effect in all of the tiers around France. Of course, I think in 5 and 6 they run usually the standard corner cutting rules, but because the track limits can be sort of exposed here somewhat, they decided to run strict corner cutting for ILR 5 and 6. Of course, with 3 and 4 anyway, they do run strict as standard, as do 1 and 2. So Wazzy then, on board with him, just coming out of the final corner at the moment. This is a fast lap. 30.731 was his best, and he's improved by just under a tenth to move up into 5th place. And he's immediately backed off, so he's not going again then. So the super soft running Sauber driver currently up in 5th place, just 1 spot behind his teammate. So both the Saubers putting in a nice performance so far. Rinky Marie in 3rd and Nigel on provisional pole, and now Owen White in 4th have early retired from the session. They feel they cannot improve or haven't got enough time to get round for another flying lap. So looks like tough to handle. He's not going out again because he's still in the pits, so he's quite happy to sit up in 2nd place on the super soft tyres. Wazzy's just completed a lap. Harry, no, a new driver to ILR3. He's on an out lap at the moment. Spaghetti Chips coming across the line end, so he's going to go again. He needs to set a lap time. Starting down in 19th place is a position you don't want to be in. So tough to handle. So the top 5 as it is at the moment then, well, they won't improve their time. They've all retired from the session, or they're not going back out again. So Harry here has a good opportunity to just come around and start his last flying lap. Meanwhile, the McLaren of Lewis, one of our reserve drivers, has just popped up into 2nd place. So tough to handle. Be a bit disappointed that he's now off the front row. So Joe Cole in 8th place now starts his final lap. Harry also coming across the line to start his. Konzo up in 10th place at the moment. He's coming out to start his flying lap. Paul McGuinness just coming out the final corner. Lukey Luke as well. Bookstar, all these guys in the final sector were just starting their final lap. 16 seconds left of the session. So Lewis retires from 2nd place. He feels he's done enough. That might have been a validation there for EVR Matt. Is he still pushing? He is. So he's managed to get away with it. Larkin also on a good one as well. EFC Matthew down in 16th. So it's been a poor performance so far by the Renault guys. Harry in Sector 2, Konzo Sector 1, all these guys in Sector 1 at the moment. So I think Harry then will be the first driver to complete his last flying lap then. Bring up the tyres. Now, in fact, we'll keep it on the best so we know exactly what they're going to be setting on. There's a different spread of drivers inside the top 10, either starting on the Ultras or the super soft tyres, which could pay dividends for those on the super softs in the race. Certainly the likes of Lewis and tough to handle up into 2nd and 3rd place for now. McGee Showman, of course, is retired from the session, so he'll be at the back. Someone's just improved. Spaghetti Chips up into 3rd place. Good lap by him, unseen by me. Just being pipped by his teammate by just a couple of hundredths of a second. So the McLaren's looking very good in 2nd and 3rd place, and Spaghetti Chips will be delighted with that lap time on the super soft tyres. But here comes Harry. He's just got a couple of corners to go now. Let's see what the debutant in ILR3 can muster up for that Mercedes. Nigel currently on pole position. Looks like he's going to keep it. Can his teammate challenge him though? A 30.715 was his best. I don't think he's going to be improving. He does actually by 5 tenths. Moves up into 6th place. Now we've got Paul McGuinness just coming out the final corner. He's coming into the pits. Konzo though, he's going to complete it. A 31.1 on the soft tyres. And he's into the 30s, up into 8th place on the super soft tyres. And we've got Luke coming out the final corner as well. He's down in 15th place, now 16th place as well on the softs. He's gone supers. Has he improved? He has got himself inside the top 10 in 9th place. So a majority of the top 10 then on the super soft tyres, which is to be expected. A lot of these guys are planning the one-stop strategy in this race. Those on the ultra soft tyres may very well find the going tough and may have to settle for a 2-stop strategy here. So there we go then. Nigel for Mercedes takes pole position, running the ultra soft tyres. That is crucial because he was less than a tenth ahead of the McLaren duo of Lewis and Spaghetti Chips, both on the super soft tyres. Tough to handle. Our championship leader up into 4th on the super soft tyres. Rinky Marie in 5th on the ultras, and then the rest of the top 10. EVR Matt managed to do well to get up into 6th for Renault. Harin, Konzo, Luke and Owen White rounds out the top 10. Other than that, we've got Wazzy in the Sauber, Bookster in the Ferrari. The Toro Rossos line up on row 7. Larkin ahead of Jake Colvin. Flexi off the pace tonight in 15th place. Paul McGuinness, EFC Matthew, and then a few other drivers that failed to set a lap time. But it looked like there that pretty much all the guys that set a lap time are only separated by about a second and a half. So as ever with ILR3, probably the most competitive tier on the PS4 platform, and it'll be sure in for a good race. I'm going to take a couple of minute break here, but do stay tuned, and I'll be back with you guys during the formation lap. So the drivers now coming into the second half of this formation lap. The Mercedes of Nigel on pole position on those ultra soft tyres, remember, and he needs a good performance. He moved up 2 positions from 9th to 7th in the Drivers' Championship, and he'll be looking to do the same with a positive result tonight. But both the McLarens of Lewis and Spaghetti Chips will be hoping to take down a possible 1-2 here for the McLaren team. Tough to handle in 4th place. He's well set, to be honest with you, even if he is behind 2 cars on the same set of tyres. Winky Marie also in 5th place will need to get past these guys as soon as possible if he wants to make his strategy work. EVR, Matt, Harrin, Konzo, Luke and Owen Wyatt all looking to go as long as possible into this race on the super soft tyres. And then outside the top 10, of course, as per F1 rules and regulations, everyone has a free choice of tyres, and a majority of the field have gone for the soft tyres. A few drivers have gone for the super softs. So it looks like Dougie Antonio has managed to join the session at the way back of the grid. I thought it was Vettel that managed to join the session, so maybe it's lost connection and Dougie has come back in. So we do have 20 drivers. Dougie, of course, is a full-time driver and will score points for McLaren wherever he finishes. He's not a Ferrari driver, of course, but he's just taking his place on the grid then. 27 laps here at Paul Ricard. Not too sure what the weather's going to do. It looks quite overcast at the moment. It's Nigel and Lewis on the front row of the grid. Spaghetti Chips and Tough to Handle in 3rd to 4th will look to try and get themselves to the front of the field as soon as possible. 5 lights here for round 8. The lights go out, the way the drivers go now. Hopefully they can all keep it clean in the first couple of corners, but Nigel leads away and they're all scrabbling 2, 3, 4, 5 wide in the background. The blind turn 1 is the first test for all of these guys. Lewis holds on to 2nd place. Tough to Handle's being squeezed out a little bit there, and it looks like Winky Marie has made initial gains and up into 3rd position in the background. Larkin made a bit of contact and half spun in the background, but again, Tough to Handle and Harrin now going into battle. And you've got Owen Wyatt, EVR, Matt there as well. Konzo squeezed down into 9th place. Oh, a bit more contact there. Oh, the Williams there of Tough to Handle really out of shape. Coming through the right-hander onto the back straight, a little bit of contact there with the Mercedes. Dougie Antonio picks up a 5-second stop-go penalty for corner cutting and gaining position. But Spaghetti Chips has got to go massively defensive as they come down the first part of the Mistral straight, because Harin there is up his inside, coming into the final, coming into the middle chicane, I should say. And he's managed to get past the Williams driver, EVR Matt, also up into 7th place. Owen White has managed to get up into 8th as well. And already a couple of time penalties coming in as we filter back through the field. Oh, it's a Haas car making huge contact there in the background of someone. Is that Paul McGuinness? It is Paul McGuinness. The bad luck continues for the Scotsman, down in 20th place on those soft tyres as well. And he's got to make a pit stop to fix that badly damaged front wing. And already Paul McGuinness here in the wars early on. And it isn't even the end of lap 1. But Nigel leads over a second ahead of Lewis. Winky Marie safe in 3rd position at the moment. But Spaghetti Chips is all over the back of him like a bad suit. Harin, though, putting in a good performance on his debut, up into 5th position, tough to handle, down into 6th. And as the rest of the field stream through, Matt up into 7th, Owen White in 8th, Konzo in 9th, Lucky Luke in 10th. But it looks like there he's got Zenki and J. Cole very close to the back of him as well. We've got yellow flags in sector 3, so there's more action going on further back as well as the field filtered down into turn 1. Looks like, and then we've got Dougie Antonio, or was it Bookster actually? Yeah, it's Bookster there, just losing a couple of positions out to Wazzy and EFC Matthew. So Larkin is in the pit lane. Paul McGuinness is going to carry on. I don't really see the sense in that. That front wing is completely knackered. But Paul McGuinness then carrying on in 19th place. We'll bring up the big movers and shakers then. So Rinky Marie then up 2 positions into 3rd. Harin as well has also made 2 positions up into 5th place. Owen White from 10th up into 8th. Zenki has made a fantastic start, down in 18th all the way up into 11th. Same for Dougie Antonio, who joined the session during qualifying. He's already up into 13th place. Zenki thinking about a move up the inside of Lukey Luke into the chicane. And he's now on the outside for it, so hopefully he can put this move away on them soft tyres, of course. And it's now 8 positions gained for Zenki in the space of a lap and a half. So he's got some good pace and managed to filter his way through all of the carnage on the opening few corners here. Lukey Luke down into 11th. J. Cole has made a couple of positions up and might be challenging here into the double right-hander, which is a possible overtaking opportunity. He's got hope and pray, but the guy on the outside does see you. And a little bit of contact there again between the 2 drivers. And J. Cole this time has got hang the car around the outside. Lukey Luke's still there. And this time it's the Haas driver forcing J. Cole over the curbs. But I think the Toro Rosso driver might have put this away. A little bit more contact again. And Lukey Luke has forced the Toro Rosso driver wide, coming into the penultimate corner. So Lukey Luke holds on to 11th place for now. Further back, Dougie in 13th place. We're looking to get past Flexi off the pace tonight. He's got his teammate McGee Showman a couple of seconds back behind him as well. Then with EFC Matthew Bookster in the Ferrari down in 17th. Wazzy, he's coming into the pits to fix damage on that front wing. Paul McGuinness still circulating around well off the pace in 19th. Going very slowly, in fact. And Larkin has also made a pit stop to fix damage at the end of lap 1. But it's Nigel that leads, and Lewis is now closing that gap. Look at this, 4 tenths between the 2 of them. DRS into lap 3, of course, has been enabled as well. And he's gaining all the time. Will Nigel defend? He won't. So Lewis then should have a clear-cut opportunity up the inside into the chicane, and he does indeed take that position. The reserve driver, a very strong performance last week with 2nd, now leads here, and both these two already 3 seconds clear of Spaghetti Chips, who's now managed to get past Winky Marie, and Harin in 5th place also hanging on as well. You've got to remember, Nigel in 2nd and Winky Marie are the only drivers, I believe, inside the top 10 now that are on the ultra soft tyres. Meanwhile, Konzo and Owen Wyatt going into battle further back. Oh, and the Sauber driver being squeezed out there through the very fast and flat out right-hander. So Konzo went back up into 8th place, the position he started in, but Owen White won't take that line down, and the Sauber driver will be looking to get that position back. Just locking up the left front there, just a little bit from Konzo. Zenki now onto the back of these guys in 10th, and then Luke, J. Cole and Flexi all coming through as well. So we'll bring up then the tyres, what these guys are on. Of course, you can see that our highest place soft run at the moment is Zenki in 10th place, who's challenging with Owen Wyatt coming into the final corner and has managed to make the move stick. So Owen Wyatt now pushed down from 8th to 10th place. So Zenki now starting to make some gains on those soft tyres. They will start to come into their own around about this time. Meanwhile, Harin, though, has managed to get past Rinky Marie for 4th, but has got to defend the inside, coming through the little back straight there into turn 4, and then through 5, and then into 6, 7, and then 8 for left-hander onto the Mistral straight. So it's a nice train of cars behind having that at the moment, but I think that was basically down to Rinky Marie slowly starting to be off the pace a little bit. You can see Tough to Handle in the background there, just understeering, just a little wide for that right-hander, being tucked up behind that Red Bull. Of course, all these drivers will have the DRS, but Harren is safe, Rinky Marie is not. And in fact, Rinky Marie moving to the middle of a circuit and Tough to Handle up the inside. Good camera shot here to see what's going to happen. And Rinky Marie goes deep, forcing the Williams driver out wide, and that's allowed EVR Matt through as well. So Tough to Handle tried to move into the chicane to gain a place over Rinky Marie, but in fact has lost a position. Meanwhile, his teammate picks up a 3-second time penalty. All these guys in the lower half of the top 10 very close together. And now 7th and 8th for the Williams drivers. Konzo has to move to the inside a little bit to defend from Zenki, who does go up the inside into the double right-hander. It is an overtaking opportunity if you've got the grip and the guts. And Zenki is really pushing that Red Bull at the moment up into 8th place. Fantastic performance so far on those soft tyres. And he's already challenging Tough to Handle round the outside into the penultimate corner. A little bit of contact there, I think, between them. It was. Zenki was pushed off the circuit. And now Konzo ran the outside into the final corner. Meanwhile, up in front, Rinky Marie really struggling, I think, already on them ultra soft tyres, because EVR Matt is going to be challenging down the main straight with the DRS, ran the outside into turn 1, into lap 5, and he's already through into the braking zone. So Rinky Marie now starting to lose the early positions he gained. Those ultra soft tyres already probably past their best. And now Rinky Marie's got to look in his mirrors, because the next driver to challenge will be our championship leader. But Zenki behind in 8th place is looking very feisty on those soft tyres. It's Red Bull Williams, and it could be Red Bull at the moment. That was a brave move up the inside by Zenki. Superior grip on the entrance and the exit as well, up into 7th place. And his next target is his own teammate. And I don't think that will be a battle that will be going on too long. Already up the inside with the DRS as well, and both the Williams drivers are coming with him as well. They're going to be 3 wide, possibly into the chicane. Tough to Handle's got to be very careful here, because Zenki won't be expecting a move from the Williams driver, and Zenki does manage to shrug off Tough to Handle up into 6th place, then Tough to Handle into 7th, and Rinky Marie still hemorrhaging positions. You can see the train of cars behind him all the way down to Flexi in 13th, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rinky Marie does pit sooner rather than later. All just drinking about there behind Tough to Handle. We've got a little bit out of shape there, following his sister teammate ahead of him. But Zenki then up into 6th place on those soft tyres. Fantastic performance so far by him. And Rinky Marie slowly starting to fall back. Konzo then, he will be looking to get past this Red Bull driver as soon as possible. He needs to stay in touch with the guys ahead of him, because they're all starting to form their own little groups and break away. Oh, a bit of a love tap and a bit of damage on the front wing. And Owen Wyatt, what a sneaky move that was up the inside, as the Red Bull driver does indeed pit. And Owen Wyatt there, right up the inside. Fantastic opportunistic overtake. But around the outside will come Konzo again into 1 and now into 2. He'll have the inside. Owen will have to give him the space. Both slow on exit, which has allowed Lukey Luke to close up. And here comes Flexi as well on the soft tyres. So the next driver on the soft tyres starting to make some gains as he'll go very deep into the left right. And Lukey Luke's made contact with someone and spun the car. So Lukey Luke already now outside the top 10. He'll be able to recover, of course, with the characteristics of the circuit. Wherever you spin off, you will easily be able to recover. It's just tarmac everywhere. But Lukey Luke won't be happy with that. Spun down to 12th place, has promoted Dougie into 11th, J Cole into 10th, Flexi now into 9th place on those soft tyres. And I think the Super Softs already starting to show a bit of wear then. Ultra soft runners already off of those tyres. Nigel has pitted from the lead down, or 2nd place, down into 16th place. Meanwhile, Maggie's Showman is losing positions with EFC Matthew, who's recovering to the circuit. So those two have had a bit of a moment outside of the top 10. So Nigel's made a pit stop onto the soft tyres. He'll be hoping to do 20 odd laps on these. Same for Rinky Marie down in 17th. Larkin, Wazzy and Paul McGuinness, who has now finally given up running around with a damaged front wing. They're all well off the pace and will probably have to make another pit stop. But it's Lewis then. It comes in to lap 7, leading this race 2.3 seconds ahead of his teammate. Having it now up into 3rd place, and Zenki still continuing his charge. He's now managed to get past the Renault of EVR Matt up into 4th place. Might have to defend the inside a little bit as the Renault driver comes back at him. At this time, Matt won't be able to complete the move, and Zenki looking really strong on those soft tyres. Question marks will remain over those starting on the super soft tyres inside the top 10, but they should have enough in them to be able to go into super softs onto the soft tyres. Zenki will look to take the soft tyres as far as possible. On a personal note, I started the ILR6 race on a brand new set of soft tyres and comfortably took them to lap 16. So I'll be expecting Zenki to do the same as well. Then bolt on a set of super soft tyres. Of course, his tyre wear or his luck could be a little bit better than mine, and he might push the soft tyres closer to lap 20 than maybe put on a set of ultras. But I think he's going to play safe and pit probably around about 14 to 17 for a set of super soft tyres. It's two McLarens leading at the moment, Harrin in third, Zenki in fourth. EVR Matt now having to defend the inside into the long right-hander. That will be brave for Tough to Handle to try that move off, and he doesn't. Stays in 6th place for now. Flexi a long way back in 7th place. Meanwhile, Owen White and J. Cole going into battle over 8th and 9th. And J. Cole looking very aggressive and very assured of himself in his first official ILR3 start. He's coming up in 8th place, Owen White in 9th. Dougie Antonio has risen quietly into 10th place, just ahead of his teammate for tonight, Boogster, in 11th. So then lap 8 of 27. And Zenki has managed to pass the Mercedes driver for Harrin, who with the DRS came back at him in the chicane. But just how impressive has this Red Bull drive been so far? I know I keep harping on about it, but so far he has put in a really fantastic performance so far on those soft tyres. Now he needs to get clear of this Mercedes driver who's still hassling him back for that third position. And Zenki now needs the next few laps then to pull away from the few guys behind in the super soft tyres, and will keep one eye on his times compared to the McLarens, because if he starts gaining on those as well, remember of course both the McLarens will be pitting at some point for the soft tyres. Zenki will be pitting for the super softs at some point, so he will continually be quick in this race. And if Zenki can start to bring that gap down before the McLarens make their pit stop, of which one of them is Lewis is in already, off of those super soft tyres, this will be an easy change onto the soft tyres for him. So Zenki then now up into 2nd place. Meanwhile, Harrin still holding on. EVR Map, good performance so far. Tough to Handle, just can't seem to find a way through at the moment. But he's keeping pace with everyone that is also on the super soft tyres. Lewis does indeed pit. So I should say he has pitted, he has rejoined on the soft tyres down in 13th place. So he's kept ahead of Nigel, because that was a battle initially in this race. In fact, Lewis is almost 4 seconds ahead of Nigel, so those two will now slowly start to move up the order. Flexi in 6th then, won Canada last week to put the Monaco misery to bed. And J. Cole still circulating around in 7th place for now. Meanwhile, Boogster and Owen White are going into battle over 8th, and Boogster manages to complete the move with the DRS as well down into the chicane. So Owen White still circulating in 9th on those super soft tyres. And you can see the soft runners now slowly starting to make their way through. Lewis in 13th place. His first target is going to have to be to get past the Force India of McGee's Showman. Of course, McGee can probably not put up too much of a battle, because obviously these guys are running completely different strategies in this race. Indeed, up the inside into the double right-hander, which is a popular overtaking move, as we can just see EFC Matthew up ahead in 11th, struggling on those supers, recovering to the circuit. So there'll be a few moves there going on tonight. Anyone else planning on making a pit stop, I'll be looking at those on the super soft tyres. Tough to Handle is in then, so from 5th place he's looking to get an undercut, I think, on Harrin and Matt. So that's the only reason why he would have pitted at this time. So he's going to fall down the order. And has he gone on to another set of super soft tyres? Well, super soft on the car, but soft on the Delta screen on the left hand side, and I'm more than inclined to believe what is said to me rather than what is shown to me. So I think Tough to Handle just rejoining in 13th place, just coming out. Oh, and Rinky Marie's just had to duck out of the way there. That is the unusual characteristics about coming down that main straight. The pit exit comes right onto the racing line. These drivers, of course, do have a track map. They can see when cars are sometimes in the pits, certainly when they're coming across the start-finish line. But Rinky Marie there just had to duck out the way a little bit. And it is a true fight for position. Rinky Marie pitted several laps ago off of those ultra soft tyres. Same for Nigel as well, up into 12th place. Meanwhile, Lewis has managed to get past McGee Showman and now EFC Matthew. His next target is the Sauber driver of Owen Wyatt, circulating in 8th place. He'll be hoping for a couple of points tonight. And superior grip on those newer soft tyres should see Lewis comfortably through. Jump on board of a Sauber driver who doesn't put up too much of a fight, and allows the McLaren driver fairly comfortably through into 8th place. Bookstert will be his next target. As for those on the super soft tyres, Harrod and EVR Matt still continuing their little tussle over 3rd place. Zenke has now managed to clear all of them, and in fact, as Spaghetti Chips came into the pit lane, and I did just catch that Zenke had managed to bring that gap down to 2 seconds. A few laps ago, it was 4.5. So Zenke was still catching these guys. Now, of course, he's on a used set of soft tyres, having completed 10 laps, and it's going to really depend on the likes of Spaghetti Chips and Lewis where they rejoin. Lewis has got the jump, as you would imagine, but if Lewis and then the Spaghetti Chips start to lose time as they make their way through the field of those guys that have yet to make a pit stop, as you can see there again, McGee Showman just having to duck out the way off the racing line to put that move in. So Lewis is still stuck in traffic, although he's making his way through fairly comfortably, and Spaghetti Chips has now just come out behind McGee Showman on a very used set of super soft tyres. So Zenke can continue to pound in some very impressive laps here before he makes his pit stop. He may very well might find himself in a battle for the lead with the 2 McLaren drivers. It does depend on how well Lewis and Spaghetti Chips manage to get themselves through the traffic. And this will be the first opportunity for Spaghetti Chips to make a move on McGee Showman, who again, after being overtaken by Lewis a lap or two ago, doesn't put up too much of a fight against the sister McLaren. Up the inside into the chicane, and that's an easy move there for Spaghetti Chips. Nigel will also look to try and find his way through now on the exit, but he's going to find it difficult because the next corner is that fast, flat-out right-hander. Might try it into the double right-hander just after this, depending on what the grip is like from McGee Showman, but it seems quite good through there. Yeah, he's not close enough to try a move. So then Spaghetti Chips now up into 8th place. Lewis into 6th, fighting with Bookster over the curbs, and through he goes. So possible bit of contact there between the two drivers. And the next target for Lewis will be Joe Cole in 4th place. EVR Matt now pits off of those super soft tyres, which just leaves his teammate EFC Matthew, who'll be forced to go for another lap, I feel. And McGee Showman in 10th place, serving that qualifying ban, of course. So everyone pretty much, apart from Paul McGuinness, now on a set of soft tyres. And question marks will remain over those guys that have already pitted onto them if they can get them to the end. Of course, the top 3, in fact 4 of the top 5, yet to make their one and only pit stop. Everyone else has, by their own standards. And EVR Matt rejoining in 13th place, just ahead of Rinky Marie, who is unable to get past into turn 1. So McGee Showman in 9th and EFC Matthew in 7th, yet to make their first and only pit stop off of the super soft tyres. Bookster in 5th, has been running the soft tyres since the start, as has J. Cole in 3rd, Flexi in 2nd, and our new race leader Zenke in 1st, who's risen fantastically well through this field and now has the race in his hands, but he has to keep pushing here on these soft tyres to make this strategy work. Because Lewis is now going to come under, he's going to have to, as I say, J. Cole, my God, my English, is going to start coming under a bit of attack now from Lewis. Spaghetti Chips is in clear air, 6 seconds behind Bookster. So Spaghetti Chips can certainly get the hammer down now. And the rest of the guys just filtering through as well. We still have all 20 runners as we're approaching half distance here. No virtual safety car or real safety car as of yet. To be honest, I wouldn't want one because it will completely flip the race on its head, but I want to see what's going to happen with the Red Bull of Zenke and these 2 McLarens. At the moment, I think Lewis is around about 13 seconds behind Zenke, so I don't think it'll be enough. In fact, Lewis has managed to pass J. Cole, I think, coming into the final corner, actually. And he has a DRS as well. So Lewis now up into 3rd place. The next target of him will be Flexi, going long into this race on the soft tyres. Further back, we've got more moves going on here. We've got Nigel and, actually no, it's EFC Matthew and McGee Showman making a pit stop. We've got yellow flags in sector 3. Someone's had a moment. We'll cycle through. Everyone seems okay, so not too sure what that was about. So EFC Matthew going on to the soft tyres, as is McGee Showman as well. So everyone apart from Paul McGuinness now on the soft tyres. You can see that obviously 4 of the top 5 yet to pit onto the super soft tyres. So we still have a second part of this race to come. It'll be interesting really to see how Zenki can keep going with these soft tyres and how far he can keep going with these soft tyres as well. Flexi in second is not really a factor for a high position in this race. He can certainly pick up a few points by going as long as possible on the soft tyres. But Lewis, as you can see there, slowly starting to catch. J. Cole in 4th, Bookster in 5th, yet to make their only stops as well. Spaghetti Chips has recently been in as well, and he's already brought the gap down from 6 seconds to 4. So he's catching the Ferrari of Bookster by over 2 seconds a lap. Nigel was our pole man and early race leader. He's down in 7th at the moment, tough to handle. It's been a fairly quiet race for my championship leader. And he's finding it going tough around here, but Having still going in 9th and EVR Matt in 10th place. So a nice little battle here for 4th place between J. Cole and Boogster. Both of these guys, of course, this is a true battle between them. As J. Cole decides to come into the pits then. Boogster will carry on, and there is Spaghetti Chips in 5th place. Just notice there's a few Owen White fans and Paul McGuinness fans in the chat tonight, which is nice to see. Unfortunately for you guys, Owen White down in 16th place. Is not really struggling, or is not really fighting for a points position at the moment, and Paul McGuinness unfortunately is looking to make sure he doesn't finish last, but he's got to make another pit stop. He's done 11 laps on them super soft tyres, and yet again Paul McGuinness' season just continues to unravel as it goes on, and I do feel for the guy. He deserves some points in ILR3. Anyway, Boogster defending the inside, coming down the Mistral straight into the chicane, moves back over to the racing line just in front of Spaghetti Chips, and Spaghetti Chips won't be happy with that. We'll jump on board with the McLaren driver. That 6-second gap he had a few laps ago is now completely being eradicated, and Boogster has got to defend there, just saving a little bit of battery there. You can see the red light on the back flashing away, and Flexi's just a few seconds up the road as well. I mean, I have a gap between Zenki and Lewis now down to 11.2 seconds, so Zenki will definitely lose the lead. In fact, I think Zenki might very well fall back into the clutches of a roundabout where Nigel is as well, but he will be on the super soft tyres, so expect him again to challenge through the field. And in fact, our race leader does make a pit stop, so Lewis will retake the lead of this race, and Flexi and Boogster will be 2nd and 3rd unless they decide to pit on this lap as well. Flexi just ahead there, coming out the final corner. Is he pitting? No, he's going to carry on. Boogster over back end is really struggling with them tyres, and he does take this opportunity to pit. So Zenki then is coming back out the pits then on the super soft tyres. Boogster will also be on them as well. Where will Zenki rejoin? Is he going to keep hold of 4th place? He will, comfortably as well, ahead of Nigel. So now the challenge is on for Zenki. There's about, I think, 13-second gap to Lewis, and he's got 12 laps, including the one he's currently on now, to close that gap by 13 seconds. It's a second a lap, essentially. And of course you can take Flexi out of this. Lewis has been on those tyres for 7 laps. For some unknown reason, Spaghetti Chips is still showing has completed 0 laps on those soft tyres. I can confirm that he's completed many more than that, of course. So at the moment, Lewis in first, Flexi in second, but he's yet to make a pit stop. So the true podium really is the McLarens with a 1-2, Zenke in third, and Tough to Handle has managed to get past Nigel there, coming down into the chicane. That is an important move. Oh, and in the background there, Nigel runs very wide, and he's going to have to recover to the circuit. Picks up a 3-second time penalty for that as well. Meanwhile, his other teammate, his teammate, I should say, Hamlin, also losing a position out there. So the Mercedes having a bad few seconds here. Might come back at EVR Matt though into the long right-hander, and EVR Matt does see him and give him the space. Both on the soft tyres, both very similar strategies as well. So this is a true battle for position. The only driver out there really off sequence is Flexi in second place, and I'll be expecting him into the pits at the end of this lap, if not certainly the next. But Nigel has completed 10 laps already on those soft tyres, going 20 laps in a set of softs. Will be pushing it. He might just be able to do it, but the last few laps he's going to be very, very slow. So EVR Matt then in 7th place has now managed to see Harrin off, as Flexi does make his pit stop onto the super soft tyres. So Zenke then 2.3 seconds, now down to 2 seconds, just like that, behind Spaghetti Chips. I think Zenke will be able to get past Spaghetti Chips fairly comfortably, and that 12-second gap is already down to less than 10. Of course, the data times might have been lying to me a little bit as Zenke was getting up to speed coming out of the pit lane. So I think Zenke has still got an opportunity to win this race here, but he needs to catch and pass Spaghetti Chips as soon as possible. And everyone now has made what should be their one and only pit stop. So Tough to Handle is circulating in 4th place. Question marks will remain over Nigel if he can get these soft tyres to the end in 5th. But at the moment, EVR Matt and Harrin still continuing a battle over 6th and 7th. And Harrin then putting in a good performance here for his debut. Very close into the chicane. But both very respectful driving, and the Renault keeps in position for now. Conzo quite raced from the Scotsman in 8th. Flexi has rejoined in 9th, just ahead of Boogster. Both of these guys recently pitted onto the super soft tyres. But Flexi is 8.5 seconds behind Conzo, and Lukey Luke just outside the points in 11th place. Then we have Wazzy, who's already completed 14 laps on those soft tyres. He'll definitely have to make another pit stop. J. Cole is now on the super softs in 13th. Then we have Owen White, Irsi Matthew, and McGee Showman and Dougie Antonio. That's a position change there, 16th and 17th. Larkin, quiet race in 18th. Rinky Marie has made a second pit stop. So the guy that was challenging for a good top 5 early on, now all the way down in 19th, and Paul McGuinness has made another pit stop onto the ultra soft tyres this time, then down in 20th place. But still good to see that we've got all 20 drivers that started still circulating. Lewis leads 8 seconds ahead of Spaghetti Chips, and here is Zenke then. He's already caught the McLaren driver, and the first opportunity he's going to have to pass will be in a couple of seconds time with the DRS down the Mistral straight into the chicane, and he's got to make this move done as soon as possible if he wants any opportunity to catch and pass Lewis. And already Spaghetti Chips out, making his intentions clear, moving over to the inside. And Zenke gaining with the DRS around the outside, heavy braking then into the chicane. A fantastic move by the Red Bull driver around the outside into the chicane, moves up into 2nd place, and on board with Spaghetti Chips there you can already see Red Bull just absolutely leaving him for chips, disappearing into the distance, the superior tyres and the grip. And Zenke then, I think there's 10 laps including the one they're currently circulating on, and the gap is less than 8 seconds, so it's certainly doable for Zenke, but he needs to keep it consistent and he needs to keep it clean as well. More time penalties coming in. I think most of the Renault drivers have had penalties here tonight. EVR Matt and EVR Matthew, EFC Matthew I should say, have certainly had a few between them. And Waze Kuba has come on the chat saying, what happened to my guy Paul? Well, coming out of the chicane on the Mistral straight, Paul got squeezed by a few cars, made a bit of contact, spun the car around into the wall, had a heavily damaged front wing, and he's been playing catch up ever since then. I think Paul McGuinness has just given up on this race and is essentially using it as a test session. So yeah, Paul McGuinness, who started well outside the top 10 and came into contact halfway around lap 1, and this race has pretty much been non-existent since then. And Tough to Handle picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. As EVR Matt and Harrin continue to circulate around in 6th and 7th place. Conzo in 8th, Flexi then down to 5.5 seconds now between 8th and 9th, and he's dragging Boogster along with him as well. So keep an eye on Zenke. and the split time between himself and Lewis, and also keep an eye on Flexi and Boogster to see if they can slowly catch up to these guys, because if they catch up and get past Konzo, I mean, Harry and EVR Matt aren't exactly that too far up the road. And then you've got Nigel, who's on a very used set of super soft tyres, so I think possibly a 5th and a 6th place could be on there for Flexi and Boogster, but they're going to have to keep pushing until the end of this race. Meanwhile, Zenki is now brought that gap down to 6.5 seconds, and at this current pace he's going to be right with Lewis with about 2 or 3 laps to go. Kip Jermal has come on to say, I see Owen not screen, can you show him? I want to see how he's doing. Yep, sure, okay. I'll tell you what, we'll jump on with Owen White then. Here we go then. We'll stay with Owen White then, unless something dramatic happens until the end of this lap. In fact, Flexi and Boogster are going into battle over 9th and 10th. But here you go then, a few people in the chat, Owen White fans. We're on board now with the Sauber driver. On his own on circuit, he's 5 seconds behind his own teammate Wazzy, and he's 4.5 seconds ahead of EFC Matthew. So this is a damage limitation race now for Owen. You'll be hoping that there's a safety car out there or something. Oh, and Zenki picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. That is critical. That is huge, because I don't know if Lewis has any yet, of course. There's been so many in this race. I'm not too sure who has what. I don't like to check the race director. I know some people do. I don't. I like to have the surprise coming over the line. We've got yellow flags as well in Sector 3. But there you go then. Owen White on board with him as he completes another lap. Completing lap 20 into 21. McGinn Showman, in fact, I think EFC Matthews just had a moment, because Owen White was I think 4 or 5 seconds ahead of him, and now all of a sudden he's 11.5 seconds ahead of Showman. In fact, EFC Matthew coming into the pits again, so I think EFC Matthew has picked up damage somewhere, and and he's immediately retired from the session. So EFC Matthew there has given up, thrown in a towel with just a handful of laps to go there. So we still do have 19 drivers circulating. Lewis continuing round. Zenki then has brought the gap down consistently between about half a second a lap. Go down to 5.4, but I've just, as I said there, Zenki has got at least one 3-second time penalty. Possibly Lewis has one as well, not too sure. Spaghetti Chip seems very safe in 3rd place for now. And tough to handle in 4th. Nigel in 5th has got EVR Matt and Harry behind him as well. Meanwhile, Flexi and Boogster still scrapping over this in 9th and 10th place, and both of them on the super soft tyres, and they need to work together, because they might be fighting over 9th place, but they've got a good opportunity at 8th or maybe 7th or 6th, something like that. But as long as these two keep fighting over it, then they're going to end up settling for just 9th and 10th place. But Flexi at the moment hedged that battle. Boogster just behind. We'll jump on board with the Ferrari driver as they come over the line. DRS, finger on the button. Building up the speed as they come across to grid hatchings underneath the Pirelli signs. Over to the right hand side for the blind entrance into turn 1. Both of them nice line through there. Into 2. Little bit of a lift off through there. Correct the car. Run a little bit wide. Flexi picks up a 3-second time penalty for running over the white line. So that's crucial between this little battle. And you can just see there a few cars up ahead. That's Konzo, Nigel and Harriet as well. An EVR match just ahead of all that lot as well. So these two are slowly catching these this group of cars up ahead. But they need to leave each other alone and just focus on catching the guys ahead. Meanwhile, further back we've got Luke in 9th as J. Cole behind him. Fantastic helicopter shot here. Just a couple of seconds as Luke defends the inside into the chicane. And J. Cole with the DRS will try this around the outside. Very late on the brakes, squeezing that car wide, just forcing Luke off the racing line a little bit. And a very nice move indeed for 11th place, just 1 place outside the points. It'd be nice to see J. Cole score at least a point tonight here, because I think his performance has certainly deserved it. No, Boogster and Flexi still very close together. And Konzo on his own, 3 seconds behind Nigel, 4 seconds ahead of Flexi. Zaminki Marie down in 17th picks up a 3-second time penalty. Ducky Antonio has recently made another pit stop as well, so Paul McGuinness has gained a position up into 18th. Meanwhile, Lewis and Zenki then, lap 22 of 27, 6 to go. The gap is 4.2 seconds, so it's slowly starting to stabilise a little bit. Zenki is still catching, but not as quick as he was before, and of course that 3-second time penalty looms large over his head. Spaghetti Chips comfortable in 3rd, tough to handle, comfortable in 4th. But meanwhile, this battle for 5th, 6th and 7th is certainly not over. But EVR Matt in 5th has got the advantage by running on those tyres for 10 laps. Having in 6th place has been on them for 11. Nigel in 7th place has been on for 16. Konzo's also been on 15th, and Owen White down in 14th place picks up a 3-second time penalty. So I don't think we'll be seeing Owen in the points at all in this race, unfortunately. Now on board with Harry then. He's a very, very solid performance on his debut here in ILR3. You do have to wonder just how much grip is left in those soft tyres on Nigel and Konzo as well. In fact, Wazzy down there has completed 19 laps. 19 laps already on the soft tyres. That's good going because he's still circulating round. And Luke and J. Cole still close together in 11th and 12th. And Flexi and Boogster still close together in 9th and 10th. And they're not making any inroads into Konzo at all. The gap is still around 3.5 seconds. Zenki and Lewis, 4.3 between them. That gap is now stabilising all the time. And I think that unless something happens to Lewis severely, like several time penalties or a spin, I think that Lewis is going to be able to put this victory away, because Zenki is slowly running out of time and tyre grip as well. Into turn 1 and turn 2 again. It's Boogster this time running just a little wide. No penalty that time. I think Flexi will be disappointed with the 9th place, but ultimately I think he'll be at least a little bit satisfied that he managed to pick up some points. Same before this race, he is well off the pace and not expecting anything, so if he comes away from this with at least a couple of points, I think he'll be happy. Running wide again through there. Meanwhile, EVR Matt and Harin going into battle into the chicane, and Harin up into 5th place, so the Mercedes driver not giving up the fight just yet. Meanwhile, Nigel is now starting to fall away, as you can imagine, being on those soft tyres that are heavily used. And in the background there is Konzo as well in 9th, in 8th place, I should say. And there's a car between them. I think it's a Ferrari. It is the Ferrari of Dougie and Tony, so that down. Meanwhile, Boogster and Flexi are still going into battle over 9th and 10th. And this time Boogster completes the move around the outside into the double right-hander. We've got yellow flags in sector 3. Harin's out. Harin has retired from the race. What's happened there? We'll jump on board with these guys. We should be able to see a Mercedes somewhere on the circuit. In fact, no, we don't. He's already gone past. We'll jump on board with Wazzy. Where is this Mercedes? Where is it? Is it off the circuit somewhere? I can't see it. I can't see it. No, I can't see where that Mercedes is. So Harin somewhere and somehow has retired when he was in a promising position, which is a massive shame for the debutant. But that's put EVR Matt up into 5th position. Nigel in 6th is now starting to really struggle on those soft tyres, and Konzo there in 7th place is starting to catch. That is, I believe, the Haas of Paul McGuinness, who's a lap down in 19th, which will soon to be 18th once they pass the retired car of Harin. So we've lost only 2 drivers in this race, which is quite a nice turnout. First few races of the season we were really struggling to actually have at least half the field finishing, but they seem to have calmed down. Of course, the track characteristics and the nature of it means it's quite difficult to retire through here. There's plenty of runoff areas and tarmac for you to recover on all around this circuit. Meanwhile, Flexi and Boogster are still scrapping over what is now 8th and 9th place. And as all this goes on, these guys aren't really catching the guys ahead. Konzo, though, is now right up behind Nigel. I am keeping an eye on the battle for the lead. Zenki has brought that gap down to 2.6 now, with just a couple of laps to go, but I still feel that it is over for him unless Lewis has more penalties. So Nigel in 6th, Konzo in 7th. Starting to struggle on these soft tyres, but Konzo is looking more comfortable between the two of them. Meanwhile, Flexi and Boogster have made no inroads whatsoever because their battle is still continuing on. And J. Cole is now inside the top 10. And he's very safe in that 10th place as well, almost 7 seconds ahead of Wazzy. So I'll come back up to Zenki then. Jump on board of the Red Bull driver. He could see Lewis ahead. 3 laps to go, including the one they're on now. Gap is now down to 2.2 seconds. So it's still possible, but he really needs to be in the DRS sort of zone, sort of under a second as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Konzo and Nigel. Konzo has now managed to pass Nigel for that 6th place. So Konzo's managed to look after his soft tyres and has now found a sudden burst of speed from somewhere. And Nigel's certainly now struggling on those. He might come under attack in the last couple of laps from Flexi and Boogster, who are still scrapping over this 8th and 9th place. And Flexi picks up another 3-second time penalty. This might now start to hurt him a little bit because he's picked up a few in this race. I can't remember if J. Cole has any, and he's only 7 seconds back. Flexi, to my knowledge, has at least 6 seconds worth, possibly more. So Flexi could be in danger here of losing that 9th place to J. Cole, as both of these two still scrap over that 8th place. And Nigel, as you can imagine, now starting to fall away from Konzo, who's going to be safe in 6th place. EVR Matt safe in 5th. Tough to Handle safe in 4th. Spaghetti Chips safe in 3rd. And with 2 laps to go, the gap between the top 2 is now up to 2.3, or it's back down to 2.2, so it is very much stabilised at the moment. And with that 3-second time penalty over Zenki, again, I don't know if Lewis has one or not. Just have to wait to see what happens at the end. So the only major battle on track really is between these two here, Boogster and Flexi right underneath the rear wing again of Boogster. These two have been swapping positions relentlessly for the last 5 or 6 laps, and Flexi does manage to make the move stick before going into turn 1. Meanwhile, the Sauber drivers are going into battle over 11th and 12th, coming into their second to last lap. Wazzy and Owen White. This is for a final position outside of the top 10. So still all to play for. We've got yellow flags in Sector 2 and Sector 3, so someone somewhere has had a moment. Owen White manages to get past Wazzy then for 11th place. So you'll be hoping then that Wazzy doesn't come back at him and someone inside the top 10 falls off with a couple of laps to go. Meanwhile, Lukey Luke, disappointing race for the Haas driver down in 13th. Larkin, we've seen not much of him in 14th. McGee's Showman as well, the qualifying ban really went against him, and he's been able to do really absolutely nothing in this race in 15th. Ducky Antonio joined the qualifying session, he's down in 16th and has made several pit stops. Same for Rinky Marie and Paul McGuinness as well. And coming into the final lap then, there is Lewis and there is Zenki. So the gap then, with a lap to go, is down to 1.5 seconds. He needs to be under a second really if he wants to take advantage of a bit of DRS help. Meanwhile, Spaghetti Chips in 3rd, Tough to Handle in 4th. All these guys are safe. Meanwhile, 8th and 9th is still being hotly contested between Boogster and Flexi. I have absolutely no idea where this will go. And Flexi does have multiple time penalties. We've got another yellow flag in Sector 3. Lukey Luke has retired from the race. I can only assume that he has given up the ghost and doesn't want to see the end of this race then. And these two are still scrapping. I want to focus on the leaders, but again, Flexi with the DRS. Yeah, Void's just coming on there. It would be nice to know how old Spaghetti's tyres are. Yep, exactly. It would be nice to know. I think they're around about lap 14 or 15. I think they've completed. Most of these guys have obviously been pushing these tyres quite far. But they're on a similar sort of life to Lewis. I think they're a couple of laps younger than Lewis. But Lewis then still leads 1.2 seconds ahead of Zenki now, who's got his teammate Rinky Marie behind him. And hopefully Rinky Marie doesn't try anything going into the final few corners then. So I'm not too sure if penalties will change anything. If Lewis has 6 seconds, it will certainly put him behind Zenki. But coming out of the final corner is being a fantastic display by the ILR3 reserve driver. He comes across the line to win for McLaren, and Zenki is classified in 2nd place. Here comes Spaghetti Chips. 2 McLarens on the podium, and it is a 1-2 as well. Spaghetti Chips kept it clean. Zenki down into 3rd place. Our championship leader, Tough to Handle, will come across in a very safe 4th place as Wazzy retires at the end of this race. I can assume he picked up a puncher. So Tough to Handle then over the line in 4th place. Meanwhile, Flexi and Boogster have managed to get past Nigel, and Nigel, I believe, probably has a puncher. I wouldn't be surprised if Nigel has a puncher. The Williams guys of Tough to Handle and Konzo finish 5th and 6th. Flexi will come across the line in 7th, but I believe he'll be classified in 8th. He will at least. Here comes J. Cole in his first official start for ILR3, and he finishes and is pushed up into 8th place as well. And with Nigel having problems, will Owen Wyatt pick up the final point? I think he's too far back. Nigel has already crossed the line in 10th, and Owen indeed is classified in 11th place. Looks like a puncher for Nigel on the final lap then. And in fact, Larkin's jumped a pair of them. Wow, Larkin was absolutely nowhere. He was about 14th with a couple of laps to go, and somehow has managed to make it inside the top 10. So many penalties for Nigel and Owen Wyatt. McGee Showman classified in 13th, and we just await Dougie Antonio to come across the line to be finishing in 14th place. Wazzy will be classified in 15th. Rinky Marie, Paul McGuinness have already finished in 16th and 17th, both a lap down. But congratulations to Lewis, Spaghetti Chips and Zenki for completing the top 3 steps. So McLaren 1-2 then. Lewis ahead of Spaghetti Chips, with Zenki in 3rd place for Red Bull after a stellar drive. So congratulations to all 3 drivers. I'll invite both the McLaren drivers in for the podium interview. Zenki, unfortunately, his microphone is still not working, which is a shame because he's finished in the podium for the past 2 races. So then the final classification, and Lewis did have 3 seconds, but Zenki had 6. So Lewis wins the race with Spaghetti Chips in 2nd. EVR Matt classified in 4th place. Our championship leader, Tough to Handle, in 5th. We'll be looking to put this race behind him as well. Konzo in 6th. Finally scores some good points after a bit of a barren run. Bookster up into 7th place. J. Cole scores points on debut in 8th. Flexi, 12 seconds worth of penalties in the end, sees him in 9th. And Larkin, by dint of keeping it clean, has managed to pick up the final point. Nigel then, unfortunately, I think picked up a puncher and had 13 seconds worth of penalties. Owen White had 9. They finished 11th and 12th. And we have McGee Showman, Dougie Antonio, Wazzy, who retired on the final lap ahead of Rinky Marie and Paul McGuinness a lap down. We lost Lukey Luke, Harin and EFC Matthew. So unfortunately for you guys that are sticking around to listen to both the McLaren drivers, we had a bit of a visual glitch on the screen and it hasn't taken us back to the main menu, so I do apologise. You've got that migrating host thing that keeps flipping up, but at least we've got a nice shot of the Paul Ricard circuit there in the background. Of course, as I mentioned, Zenki unable to join the podium interview, so his microphone is not joining, but I'm delighted to say that both the McLaren drivers of Lewis and Spaghetti Chips are here. Guys, I know I've spoken to you already at least a couple of times this season at ILR, but if you could just double check your party settings to make sure you've allowed your voice to be shared before I start with the podium questions. Okay then, well then, congratulations. A nice 1-2, although a bit fortunate for Spaghetti Chips to get the second place after Zenki picked up too many penalties. But Lewis, we'll come to you first of all then. It looked like a dominating race from yourself, but it was anything but. Of course, you started well up alongside, you know, obviously your teammate and Nigel as well. And then just by dint of making your way through the traffic nice and calmly and quite consistently as well after your pit stop as well, put you in a nice position for the race. But you must have been worried about the Red Bull of Zenki closing in on you with a final few laps to go, with him being on those fresh set of super soft tyres.
I had a decent start off, very close into turn 1, but I thought it was very dominant because I knew the undercut was like very powerful around France when you get it on like the car behind us on like 1 super softs, because I've done it in like other leagues before. So I knew I'd get a good undercut on Spaghetti, which I did where I came at like 7 seconds ahead. So I thought I'd just carry on from there because I knew Senki would be coming back at the end. And towards the last 5 laps, I was very worried because like one more warning away from a second pen, which could have pushed me down to like second or third.
Yeah, how did you feel driving around this circuit? Because obviously it's new onto the calendar. You've obviously lead race elsewhere. You've probably put in plenty of practice around this Paul Ricard circuit. But when it comes down to it, when you're leading a race around here, when it's a circuit that is quite tough, especially when we're running strict corner cutting rules. You know, there were a few instances where you were quite close to picking up penalties. You said there as well you were very close to picking up 6 seconds, which would have put you into second place. Or do you feel that you were quite comfortable leading the race with the lap times you were putting down, and you're putting in some nice consistent laps?
I felt quite comfortable towards the end. I knew Senki had some pens, but then I knew Spaghetti would be catching on with fresher tyres towards the end. I quite like the track because I can handle it and I know how to take turn 1 and turn 2 without getting like any warnings, so I was quite comfortable through there and just trying to maintain not getting any like warnings or pens.
And coming into the race with the strategy, of course, you saw quite a few drivers inside the top 10 opting to set their best times on the super soft tyres, then going obviously at some point onto the soft tyres. Was that the strategy that you chosen for yourself, or did you go into qualifying maybe thinking to run the ultra soft tyres, or with previous practice rounds here you knew that super softs onto softs with the one-stop strategy would be the quicker and therefore the better strategy to run?
From previous experience, I knew the super softs are better because on ultras, when you get to about lap 4 or 6, you start to just like 3 seconds a lap to those on supers, and then you'll have one softs at the end, where supers you can just keep a nice steady pace at the start and try and get an undercut or something on the softs.
And a final question for me then, this is obviously your third race now as a reserve driver in ILR3. You retired from Monaco, second place at Canada, race win here at France as well. How are you finding life in ILR3? Do you feel it's quite competitive for you? Because some people might be turning around saying maybe you're too quick for ILR3 now with obviously 2 podiums and your first race win in the case of 3 laps. Or do you feel that ILR3 is good for you? There are some tracks coming up where you might struggle and you're feeling at a competitive pace from the other top runners in this league as well is very, very close to you? Or do you feel like ILR3, if you was given a full-time drive in this tier, for example, that you could maybe, one day challenge for a championship?
Probably I could. I feel like it's a very competitive league and a good decision for me to be in. Of course, Lexi didn't have like strong pace around France, as he said before, but hopefully he'll be better in Austria and we can have a good battle.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again at Austria, fantastic circuit next week, and if you put in a good performance at Austria like you've done tonight, no doubt I'll be speaking to you again. But fantastic result tonight, 25 points in a race win, good points for your McLaren team of course, and boosts your standing within ILR3 as well. So thank you for joining for the podium interviews and congratulations on the race win.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes me on to our second place driver, Spaghetti Chips. Gifted second place. Zenki had, I think it was a 3 or 6 second penalty, I think it was in the end. So you bumped up from third into second place. But even if it wasn't for the penalties, you'd been on the podium anyway. You're probably a bit disappointed to not take pole position. It was a great lap at the end of qualifying there. But again, like your teammate as well, making the pit stop from the super softs onto the soft tyres, then having to fight your way through the traffic. I think he was a little bit luckier than your teammate because I think once he made a couple of moves, you were about 6 or 7 seconds away from the next driver. She was able to sort of knuckle down and put some consistent lap times in. But you must be disappointed that you haven't taken a race win here tonight, because obviously you're in a Drivers' Championship fight at the moment, and with Tough to Handle struggling here today, you would have probably preferred taking the 25 points. But you must be happy though with the 18 for second.
Oh yeah, I'm obviously very happy that I did get second, because obviously I've gained some points on Tough to Handle. Obviously he's in P1 at the moment, but any points at the moment closer to him is good points. I'm just happy that I did get second place. I was just trying to not get penalties during the whole race and just hoping that people would get penalties in front of me. So yeah.
I mean, talking about penalties around this circuit, of course, it's exceeding track limits around here. It's quite easy to do, especially when you're pushing a car quite hard. I mean, turn 1 and turn 2 is quite notorious for it. Was there a few instances around there where you were quite close? Did you have a couple of warnings, or was it a case of going away and practicing and just, pushing the car to a certain limit, sticking to that limit so you knew where the car would be on entrance and exit to every corner?
Well, in fairness, what I was doing the whole race was kind of tire saving, just in case I did have a bit of a bottle, like I've done in other leagues, just to make sure I don't have a bottle. So I wasn't really trying to hit the track limits as much. I was just trying to stay in there. Turn one, I did get one warning, but except for that, I felt like I didn't really get any warnings anywhere else. Didn't feel like I was exceeding track limits. I think I was always keeping it inside the white lines.
And obviously with the performance of both Tough to Handle and Konzo tonight, down in 5th and 6th places, they've lost a little bit of gap between you guys and the McLaren team and the Constructors, but you're still a massive way behind, so the Constructors probably really out of your reach even at this stage of the season. Are you now sort of focusing on putting some consistent performances as we reach the crucial sort of season point of like Austria and Silverstone and Germany coming up as well? Is it now a time for you to sort of go away and sort of reflect on the first 6 or 7 races and see where you've done wrong, where you've done right, and build on the positives you've had and wipe away the negatives to slowly start chipping away at Tough to Handle as the season goes on?
Well, I think I've since the season started, consistency is key has been my 3 words. I haven't really been challenging that much for the victory, but just consistent points has been my goal, and I've got that so far, even with a DNS and a DNF. Except for that, I think my lowest position was 6th. So I'm just aiming for consistency rather than winning one and maybe bottling another.
Yeah, the 3 words I always use as well to describe drivers in the championships, wherever championship is consistency is key. You can go all season without winning a race, but if you finish in the points, you'll still be well up there as well. One final question for me then, similar question I asked to your teammate Lewis as well. The strategy coming in tonight, we saw a few drivers inside the top 10 going for the ultra soft tyres, but obviously they fell away as the race went on, having to go onto the 2-stop strategy. Was a 1-stop strategy supers onto the softs, but the locked in strategy that you was always going to go for? Because it does seem on this game, no matter what circuit you're on really, the 1-stop strategy does seem key around here.
Well, yeah, the softs actually were quite a good race time, and then the ultras, as Lewis said, only last about 4 to 6 laps. So I was kind of stuck onto that strategy. Also because the pit lane's so long here, and it probably takes about 23 seconds out of your time to do a second pit stop. So I was kind of locked into the 1-stop strategy.
Well, congratulations on the 2nd place tonight after penalties. You've chipped away at Tough to Handle's championship lead, and no doubt we'll have a few more opportunities in the next few weeks to be able to talk to you as well. So well done tonight on the 18 points, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to you a few more times as the season goes on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I've mentioned before, Zenki, who finished a fantastic 3rd place on the alternate strategy, unavailable tonight for podium interviews. His microphone is still not working. Hopefully it will be sooner rather than later, so we can have an opportunity to talk to him if he puts in a few more stellar performances like he has for the past couple of weeks. So Tough to Handle and Konzo then 5th and 6th for Williams. They hold on to their incredible championship lead, but the Drivers' Championship is slowly starting to diminish after the Spaghetti finished 2nd place here for McLaren with his teammate Lewis. Again, a very, very strong performance for the reserve driver, picking up his first race win in ILR3. Thank you very much to everyone that has tuned in tonight and hung around for the podium interviews as well. Next week we're at the fantastic A1 ring, or the Red Bull ring I should say as it's now called, in Spielberg in Austria. We can expect lap times to be very, very quick there, and the action very, very fast as well. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in tonight. Be sure to watch back the stream if you want to, and make sure you're all here for ILR3 next week at 8 o'clock on Thursday.